Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be another installment of my true crime series. Now before we get started into the video, I want to put out like a little disclaimer / trigger warning. This case deals with children, deals with murder, also sexual assault, so if that is going to trigger you or you don't want to hear it, then I would exit the video now. Also, I'm sorry if I pronounce any words, like their names of places or people's names wrong. I'm not the best at, well, just speaking in general really. So I don't mean to, so if I do, just let me know in the comments. So I thought I'd do another true crime video because you guys all really liked the last one. So the case we'll be talking about today is the, I think you pronounce this, Bowraville Murders. So Bowraville Murders was the name given to 3 deaths that happened in Bowraville, New South Wales, Australia between September 1990 and February 1991. Now, Bowraville at the time was known for its beautiful scenery and it was a very small town. I think it had like 1,000 people in it. So everyone knew everyone. So the first victim was Colleen Walker, and Colleen was 16 at the time and she lived in Southall but was born in Bowraville. So Colleen, whenever she left the house, because she lived with her mum, she would always tell her mum where she was going, and she would always give her mum a kiss goodbye, and she always came home when she said she was going to. So when she didn't return home, her mum instantly knew something had happened. So on September 13th, 1990, Colleen went to a party at the Mission, and that was the last time that Colleen was seen alive. So the Mission is what people called that part of Bowraville, where all the Aboriginal people like lived basically, and they had a lot of parties quite often there. So Colleen was seen at the party, just walking away from a group of people, and also a man following her, but no one thought anything of it at the time. The next day after this party is when her family reported her missing. So even though her family believed something had happened to her, the report wasn't taken seriously. There was no like search party or no formal police action that was taken, and even after a month had passed, nothing had still happened. Like there was no police action taken even a month later. So on the 4th of October 1990, Colleen's cousin Evelyn Greenup, who at the time was 4 years old, went missing. And she went missing after she attended a party at her grandma's house at the Mission. Now at the party, her grandmother and mother both had a disagreement, and it was about whether the kids should be there or not because there was drinking and rowdy people, and a man comes up to break them up. Now this is the same man that people saw follow Colleen on the night that she went missing. So Evelyn was last seen by her mum when she put her to bed that night, and they just stayed at her grandma's house because it was her grandma's party, and you know, her mum just thought it'd be safe. So Evelyn's grandma had actually heard her cry in the night, but then there was like a thud and the crying stopped, so she just thought, well, her mum's in the room, she's probably woken up and sorting her out, so there's no need for me to worry or go in, sort of thing. Which, you know, I think anyone would kind of think in that situation. If the child's mum's there, you don't really need to go in unless you think otherwise, but... So the next morning, Evelyn's mum woke up and couldn't find Evelyn in the bed. And they started to worry, so Evelyn's mum and her grandma went outside to look for her, and all they found was just one of her pink sandals. So they reported this to the police, and even though this was the second child that went missing in the space of a month, that was also from the same place, like they went missing from the same place and everything, the police still didn't take it seriously. They still did nothing. Now people said it was like police were chasing ghosts, as there wasn't a lot of evidence really to go off anyway. And people kept calling in with sightings, but when the police checked into these sightings, there was no like evidence to support them, so they determined that these sightings were fake. Okay, so the next person to go missing after Evelyn and Colleen was 16-year-old Clinton Speedy. I think his last name is pronounced like Livxoxo or something, I think, but I'm not too sure. So I'm sorry if I've just butchered his name, I really am sorry. Okay, so Clinton was like a really happy-go-lucky kind of guy. He was the fastest runner at his school and he was a really good artist, according to what I could find. He also had a girlfriend, and him and his girlfriend went to a party on January 1st, 1991, and it was at the Mission. Now, that night is also when Clinton went missing. So the same man that was at the other two parties was also at this party. However, Clinton and his girlfriend actually knew this man, so trusted this man. They trusted him and actually ended up deciding to stay at the man's caravan that night after the party. So the next morning, the man actually got up early to start work, and he found Clinton missing. So both him and Clinton's girlfriend went outside to have a look for Clinton, and they found his shoes. That's all they could find. So his girlfriend, thinking that, oh, he's probably just gone home, grabbed his shoes and started to drive over to Clinton's house. Now, when she gets to his house, his parents answer because he lived with his parents, and she basically said to them like, hey, I found Clinton's shoes and I was just wondering if he's here so I can give them back to him. Now, Clinton obviously not being there, it made everyone panic, and his parents just knew that something was wrong. Like, something that just was not right with this. So they went to the police and filed a police report. And once again, they did nothing. So February 18th, 1991, Clinton's remains were sadly found. And they were found in bushland near I'm going to have to look at my notes to see this word. Corony Road, I think. I'm not too sure how you pronounce that name. And it was about 7 kilometres outside of Bowraville. Okay, so due to how hot and dry the conditions were out there, it basically made his body like practically skeletal. So they examined Clinton's body and found that he had a severe blow to the head, and the blow actually was so severe that it shattered his jaw. They also found that in his shorts he had a pillowcase shoved into one of the pockets. Now, when the coroner looked closely at the pillowcase and looked at the pattern, he instantly knew that that pillowcase had come from the caravan. So the prime suspect in the case was 25 years old. He was a local labourer, he was well known in the community, and he often attended parties at the Mission. Like, that was a known fact that he often attended them. He had a relationship with Colleen's aunt, and they actually had a child together. So that's probably why he was accepted so much into the Mission, like community and everything, was because he had a child. with one of them. So he was also very tall and broad as well, and unfortunately due to legal reasons he couldn't be named in anything. That's why I keep saying the suspect or the man, because it doesn't actually say his name. So yeah, that is why I keep saying that. So the police actually interviewed him 3 times. Now in the 3rd interview they actually showed him a picture of the pillowcase and asked him if he knew it, and he denies knowing that pillowcase or where it had come from. So he denies knowing about the pillowcase. He doesn't know where it's from, he doesn't know whose it is, nothing, and the police don't believe him. So the 8th of April 1991 he was actually arrested for Clinton's murder. So on April the 8th 1991 he was actually arrested for Clinton's death, and they'd started to make connections between the cases. They realised that they'd all taken place within 5 months. All the kids were Aboriginals, and they all disappeared after parties at the mission. They even asked him about Evelyn and about her disappearance, and he said, "No, I've said too much already." So I mean, that kind of, you know, to me that would seem like, oh, that's someone guilty saying something, but that's just my brain works. So now it's April 21st 1991 and Evelyn's skeletal remains are found. So they was found actually in the same place as Clinton, so bushland near Congarini Road or something like that, I think. The autopsy though couldn't determine the actual cause of death, but it was noted that there was a skull injury. And that was consistent with forceful penetration with a sharp instrument. So basically she'd been hit with something sharp in the head, but they couldn't determine whether or not that was the cause of death. Okay, so fast forward all the way to October, and the 16th of October 1991 to be precise. So the man was out on bail waiting his trial, and he was actually arrested and charged with Evelyn's murder. Now a little bit further down the road from where Evelyn's body was found, there was a river, and in the river there was a bag that was held down by rocks, and in this bag there was actually Colleen's clothes. So due to the law at that time, he had to have 2 separate trials, so one for Clinton and one for Evelyn, and the judge ordered it to be that way as well. Now on each trial the other, that trial would not know that he was on trial for the other person, and vice versa, and they weren't allowed to know anything about any of the cases. Facing a circumstantial case. So he was actually acquitted by Supreme Court of Clinton's murder on February 18th 1994, which was the 3rd anniversary of the discovery of Clinton's remains. And after he got acquitted for Clinton's murder, the prosecutor didn't actually go ahead with the trial for Evelyn's murder. So 1997, the New South Wales Police Commissioner set up a task force. And the task force was to continue investigations in all these cases. So I think everyone at this point kind of believes that the main suspect was the guy, definitely. But there just wasn't enough to convict him, which is so frustrating, and I can only imagine how frustrating it is for the families. So 9th of February 2004, and a coroner actually opens up the inquiries again into Evelyn's death and Killeen's suspected murder. So September the 10th 2004, the coroner actually recommended that the man be charged for Evelyn's murder, and that is exactly what happened. So he got charged for Evelyn's murder, and the trial was conducted February 2006. The prosecutor produced 2 supposed confessions, I say supposed because we don't actually know, made by the man himself, but 3rd of March 2006 he was acquitted. So the fact that no one's been like successfully convicted of the crimes has made the Aboriginal community like very upset and kind of bitter, and they also obviously still have a lot of pain because they don't know what's really happened. Just because they don't have the answers. No one's been brought to justice yet, which I can understand why they're so upset about it. Like, I can't imagine the pain you go through with that. So after the acquittal, the New South Wales Police Minister actually upped the reward. So they upped the reward to $250,000, and that was for any information that would, you know, get the suspect, to get the person that was responsible convicted. Now the previous reward was $100,000, and that was for any information regarding Killeen's disappearance. So October 2011, Killeen's family actually found some remains in bushland that was near Maxville, which is also New South Wales. However, when forensics examined it, they determined that it was just animal remains, which I'm sure Killeen's family was super devastated by. Like, obviously they don't wish that anything bad's happened to their daughter, but after all this time I think they just wanted answers. And to be so close in a way and then get told no, that must be heartbreaking. So now we're in 2016, and the detective investigator that's leading the case, like the investigations, actually made a submission to the New South Wales Attorney General, calling for a retrial based on new evidence. So now this next part hasn't been proven, and I'm not saying it's true or that it's not true. I'm not saying that any of it. However, this was, I found this quite a lot, so I thought I would share this with you. It was said that there was signs of sexual assault. Now Evelyn's mum actually said that when she woke up and found Evelyn not there in the bed, she actually noticed that she no longer had any trousers on, and the same went for Clinton's girlfriend. She also reports that her trousers were also removed. Now some people actually said that at the party the man in question had put a pill in both Evelyn's mum's and Clinton's girlfriend's drink. This was thought to be the reason why they didn't wake up, you know, before morning, because normally if, you know, you're in the same room as someone and there's talking or, you know, a struggle, you would wake up and hear that, even if you are quite a heavy sleeper, unless you're just that much of a heavy sleeper. But that is the reason, that is what people then thought was the reason. I'm not saying that's not, I'm not saying it is, I'm just telling you what I found. So 9th of February 2017, police actually laid a murder charge against the man, and the Attorney General actually applied for a retrial, which was heard by the Court of Criminal Appeal. This began 29th of November 2017. So the Attorney General needed to give evidence that was fresh and compelling for a retrial. So the 13th of September 2018, and the court actually dismissed the application, and even to this day the campaign for a retrial is still going on. To this day no one's been convicted of anything like that. So yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, I believe it's that man, but I just don't think that for a court of law there was enough evidence, unfortunately, which happens a lot. So if you guys would like some more true crime cases, then please do give this video a thumbs up, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.